Okay, so today I want to talk about this idea of discipline because if you've been in a difficult situation for any amount of time, you've surely encountered someone who told you to just get discipline, and it is one of the most overused, most overstated advice that you'll ever hear because it's so easy to say. You just tell someone to go get discipline, whatever that means, and you're basically just telling them to go away by telling them this vague idea of discipline that encompasses every single possible thing that they could do to improve their situation. It's like one rock, a million hits, you know? You just tell them one word and you get rid of them forever. So, of course, people are going to tell you to get discipline, but the reality about discipline is that you don't just create discipline. That's not how it works. You can't just create discipline out of nothing. You know where discipline actually comes from? Discipline comes from good education, it comes from good life experiences, it comes from good parents who actually helped you, who taught you useful things. It comes from good schools where you actually had informative experiences. It comes from good friendships where people actually guided you and helped you in your endeavors. It comes from genetics. If you have smart parents who have a good temperament, you're probably going to get those genes and you're going to have a much higher easiness. It's going to be much more easy to actually control yourself and to make choices and to perform better if you have the right genes. And it's a huge part of it that people just never talk about. But people are just gonna keep coming with the same old tired advice, telling you to get discipline as if it was an easy thing that you just had to sit down on a Monday afternoon and you just figure it out right quick and you just get discipline. If it was that easy, everyone would have figured it out. If it was that easy, you would have gotten a Nobel Prize. We would have shut down the entire field of psychology if it was that easy. Of course, it's not that easy. It's very, very difficult, if not completely impossible. And when you hear people come back and tell you these these tired, these simplistic one-liners, just trying to get you to move away from their face. I don't want to deal with you. Just get away from my face. Go learn some self-discipline over there. Please go self-improve on your own. I don't want to deal with you. This is what they're saying because they don't want to deal with your nonsense. They don't want to deal with your tired, useless ass. They just want you to get away from their face so they don't have to look at your dumb ass. Because they don't want to deal with you because they don't care. The only reason they're telling you this is because they want to either get rid of you or they just like to bully you, frankly. They just like to make fun of you, frankly. Some people are just terrible people. Some people just like to annoy people and be disrespectful and being considerate. Some people just want to feel better about themselves by putting other people down. Some people are just trying to make fun of you, and you can't let them just like get away with that. You have to move on. You have to get away from them. You have to tell them like I'm not coming back here because some of these people just take pleasure in your suffering. Some of these people are sadists. I mean, genuinely, they're getting close to the line of being really sadists because they enjoy other people's pains. They feel better about themselves because they feel so superior to you when they see that you're having difficulties in life, when they see that you're having problems in life. They just tell you, just go find some self discipline, buddy. They just tell you this laughing, practically galling at you. And they enjoy it. And I just don't want to deal with people like that anymore. I'm just tired of it. I'm not trying to hear any of it. It's not like I've not heard it enough at this point. People have been telling me to do discipline, just like they tell everybody else that's in a difficult situation, get discipline, do this. Of course, there's never any specifics. Of course, there's never anything informative or useful. It's all just these same one liners that they just love to pull out as if it was something useful, but The reality is that the real people who have quote unquote discipline, they're people who have been taught from their very childhood, who have been taught by schools and teachers and their parents who actually took care of them, trying to teach them you, very useful life advice. You don't just create it out of nowhere. This responsibility, this dutifulness, this attitude, this, all these good qualities, they don't come from nowhere. You can't create them out of nothing. They need to be given to you by the people who are supposed to take care of you when you're young. When you teach a kid important information, it stays with them forever. As a child, you form the most robust and the most powerful neural pathways. I mean, your brain is forming. So when you learn something, it's extremely impactful on you. It's puts a mark on you. So that's the moment where you need to actually learn all these important skills, like self-control, like emotional control, like focus, like hard work, unironically. But once you're an adult, once you get neglected and everybody just ignores you, you're the school system, who is a bullshit joke anyway. You just fail in that. They just like ignore you. There's people in the class screaming and throwing chairs out of the window, and your parents are just smoking and ignoring you and acting like complete meth addicts. I mean, they're just terrible people. The school is terrible people. The neighborhood is terrible people. Your so-called friends are just terrible people, glorified bullies. I mean, it's just terrible. Of course, you're not going to learn discipline. You're not going to learn anything except how terrible your life is, except how hopeless your life is. And people just don't understand these realities. They think you have to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. They just want to scream at you and tell you that you're a dumbass and a piece of crap and that you're somehow doing this to yourself. It's like some people just didn't get the right education. Some people just got traumatized and they just got their lives destroyed. They were given nothing but despair and fear, and of course it's going to be difficult for them in the future. Of course they're not going to be the greatest people. They're competing with people who got everything handed to them. But people just never want to think about that. People always want to pretend like these people are bad people, like they're better than them because they got a little bit luckier in a way or another. It's like, maybe give a little bit of compassion, maybe a little bit of respect, or at least just shut your mouth. I mean, frankly, you don't need to say anything. It's not useful at all. So just don't say anything. It doesn't matter. It's not going to help anything. And sometimes it's useful. Sometimes you need to get pushed. Sometimes it's useful to have someone remind you of something, but there's limits to that. And most of these people are not trying to be helpful at all. They're trying to make fun of you. They're trying to just, put out their frustration on you. So you shouldn't even deal with it. You should just ignore these people and pretend like they're not even talking to you. Just get away from them. What's also funny is all these like YouTube gurus or all these like influencers, all these people who like pretend like you need to do this morning routine, my morning routine to make $1 million a year, and you just watch their morning routine or whatever they're doing, and it's just like them waking up like at 10 p.m., waking up at the worst times, putting like vitamin C into their ass, just drinking like overpriced coffee and pretending like journaling is gonna do something. Like these ridiculous things. I mean, if you've ever seen these videos, these like self-help, like morning routine, like this is what you need to do to be successful videos, like all this junk that is going on the internet nowadays, it's just ruining people's lives, frankly. I mean, maybe I'm going overboard here, but there's really young people who listen to this kind of content from influencers, and they think that this is like what you need to aspire to. They think that you need to do all these weird things. They don't realize that all these people are scammers and grifters and liars and just like stupid people that you shouldn't aspire to be like. They go on TikTok, which TikTok is a whole nother subject. This generation is going to be destroyed, I can tell you, because TikTok is lowering the IQ of people. I mean, I don't even understand how people are still alive after spending so much time on these apps. They're literally destroying your brain. And you just see these thousands and thousands of videos showing like extravagant lifestyles, telling you that you're not good enough, telling you that you need to do this, telling you that, you're not good enough for this, telling you that, all these messages that are frankly toxic for people because they make all these young people feel terrible about themselves, feel like they need to become rich, feel like, they're not good enough, like they're failures. And of course, their parents are completely out of it. Their parents are unaware and they don't moderate what their kids watch. They don't, talk to their children, even if they're older, they should still have a certain impact on them. They should still be there to give them some wisdom and some guidance. But parents nowadays, I feel like so many of them are just completely disconnected. They don't care about their children, whether they're kids or a little bit older, maybe young adults. They just don't care about them seemingly, or they don't have the capacity to care about them. And because these people are apparently just, living their lives, being raised by the TV, being raised by their cell phone, and just going into this society, expecting things to be easy or expecting things to go a certain way, or expecting things to turn into some kind of dream, some magical adventure, because they're so delusional about the future, because they've been watching all this terrible content and this deceptive crap on the internet that's just giving them all these nonsensical visions of the world. It's really terrible. I mean, I just don't watch this stuff. I ignore it. I don't deal with this stuff because, and you probably should do the same, because this stuff is just completely, it deceives you, it confuses you. You need to really live in the real world and keep 2 feet on the ground, because everybody's trying to scam you, everybody's trying to lie to you, everybody's trying to, you know, push their agenda on you nowadays. So you just need to stay on your own. You just need to keep your feet on the ground and be a down to earth person, because that's really the only way we're going to keep going in this world. Because nowadays I don't even know, I really don't understand what people are doing. I really don't understand how they're living. I don't understand what their dreams and hopes are, because the situation is just kind of desperate. I mean, so many people don't have friends, so many people don't have family, so many people don't have a community. That's why they need to spend all their days on their telephone. And I'm sounding like a complete boomer in this video, I guess, but it's really real. It's actually true. I mean, these people have gotten completely absorbed in the internet, and it's actually it's had a terrible impact on people. I genuinely think so, because we thought it was going to be not a big deal, but imagine the idea if you had told people 100 years ago, we're going to put every single person on the planet practically in front of a screen that gives them whatever information 24/7, whatever videos and stimuluses and sounds and whatever from all over the world. It's going to get blasted in their face 24/7. What do you think they would have thought about that? They would have thought it's a terrible idea. Who knows what the ramifications of something like this would be? And we're seeing it today. It seems like people are having actual negative effects because of these machines, because of the byproducts of technology and everything else. I mean, so many weird consequences that could be, entire subjects on their own. But like the reason, for example, so many people just watch streams, if you know about streaming, if you know about these people who kind of influencers who share their lives, who kind of speak live to an audience, the reason largely why so many people participate in things like that is kind of strange, because why would anybody listen to just a person talk about their day, or just talk to a chat, something like that? I'm sure you know of this. Well, it's kind of bizarre, but I think largely the reason why people want to watch this stuff is because it's a substitute for community. It's a substitute for friendship. They feel like there's someone with them who's talking to them, and it almost feels like a genuine conversation, and it feels that hole of loneliness, because as soon as they turn off the stream or whatever, it comes back to them that there's like this loneliness, there is this fact that they are alone, and it just feels terrible. It's scary, it's uncertain, so they just want to kind of distract themselves. It's like putting on the TV so there's like a noise in the house, so it doesn't feel like there's potentially some danger around, like there's some loneliness around, And that's just one of the bizarre things that's been produced by the internet. Other things are also like the fact that the culture is largely being written, is largely being constructed by people who are being controlled by advertisers, who are themselves being controlled by corporations. Basically, the people that are making our culture are indirectly corporate CEOs and companies who are interested in profit. And I don't want to get too technical and all that. It's not like I know everything about this. It's a complicated subject, but when you think about it, the thing that constructs culture, the things that we talk about every day, the things that create our discussions, the way we speak, our norms, our the way we dress, the way we present ourselves, the way we treat each other, the things we want to aspire to in lives. All these things are part of our culture, and the things that constitute our culture are largely media, movies, TV shows, the internet, media content, news, um, magazines, music, law, the governments, political action, all these things come together to create our culture, right? And so many other things like the environment itself and the geology, but that's more complicated. But all these things come together to create our present culture. And when you think about it, almost everything nowadays is being supported by advertising. I think the majority of the earnings from Google are from advertising, I think. And so much of the content that's being produced, that's being watched, that's being talked about by the masses of people are being created and supported because of advertising. Netflix, all these TV shows, these videos online, this social media content, even legislation and political action is being sponsored by lobbyists and special interests. All these things that constitute, even the environment itself, as I said, the buildings, the way they look, the geological formations, the structure of the city planning, all these things that are being controlled are being largely controlled by corporate interests, because through ads and through sponsorships and various forms of lobbying, they're directing the direction that all these media pieces and these influencers and these politicians and all these professionals are going to act, because they have to act in accordance with the people who are paying them, which are advertisers, which are sponsors, which are lobbyists and whatnot. And all these people, all the money comes from corporate America. It comes from corporations and all that, who have vested interests in selling the most products, and so they give them certain guidelines on their content production, on their their legislation, on their political, on their bills, on their structure of their creations, on the things they're gonna build, how they're gonna build them. They give them directions that are in accordance to the way they want to sell, to optimize their profits. And that has a genuine effect on our culture, because our culture is basically being built by people who are extremely powerful and have a lot of money and want to conserve and increase their power, and are using other means of basically selling and popularizing their products and their services through many, many avenues, like politics, like media, like influencers, like even physical advertising, and very things that are embedded in the planning of the city to showcase their utility, for example. All these things are contributing to creating our culture. So our culture is largely a construction of corporations nowadays, and that's a whole complicated subject. And there's so many effects, so many examples of how that's been negative, of how our culture is a construction of from corporations, because it might not seem so clear at first, but if you start to break it down, you'll realize that our culture is largely like it almost sounds like a commercial at this point. Maybe it's starting to come to mind for you, but to me it's very clear, and it's something that we could talk about for hours. But our culture is starting to resemble like a commercial, and commercials are not good. I think everybody hates commercials. They're cold, they're distant, they're unoriginal, they're malicious in a lot of ways. And that's a very shallow description of our culture, of course, comparing it to a commercial, but that's just an example of a certain negative effects a negative effect that's been put on our culture by the forces that are constructing it. And it's a whole complicated subject, as I said. But, basically the lesson from this was that, I kind of went on a tangent, but the lesson from this is that, you shouldn't let the world tell you what to do. You should choose your own way, and you should just not deal with people that are trying to detract you or just forces that are trying to lead you astray. And I think that's the best we can do for now.